Rangers are in absolute chaos right now. Board members wanted Philippe Clement sacked but couldn't afford it. Michael Stewart is calling one of his decisions deplorable. And guess what? Some fans want Steven Gerrard back, but the reaction? Brutal. Wayne Rooney's name is now in the mix, and James Tavernier has admitted the Queen's Park humiliation was unacceptable. But where's the accountability? Everything is falling apart, and the big question is, what happens next? Stick around to find out. Rangers considered sacking Philippe Clement after that disastrous Boxing Day defeat to St Mirren, but here's the kicker. They simply couldn't afford it. Several high-ranking board members wanted him gone, but the seven-figure compensation package needed to bin the Belgian was out of reach. So, reluctantly, they let him carry on. That 2-1 loss at the S. Maisy Stadium was Rangers' fourth in the league at the time, and their seventh across all competitions. And while they haven't lost in the Premiership since, 3 draws have left them trailing behind Celtic by a staggering 13 points after 25 games. But if that wasn't enough, disaster truly struck in the Scottish Cup, where Championship side Queen's Park sent Rangers packing. The first time in 75 years they've beaten the Light Blues. To make matters worse, it hadn't happened in the Scottish Cup since the 19th century. Understandably, the anger boiled over, with protests erupting outside Ibrox after the humiliating result. Rangers supporters have seen enough. They want Clement out. But here's the problem. He still has 3.5 years left on his contract, and the club would need over £1,200,000 to show him the door. Despite making it to the last 16 of the Europa League, Clement's side are staring down the barrel of a trophyless season, having already lost the League Cup final and crashed out of the Scottish Cup. The reality is brutal. Rangers don't have the cash to sack him, and without a serious injection of funds, his reign could drag on until the summer. Is Philippe Clement still in charge because he deserves to be, or is he only there because Rangers are stuck with him? Michael Stewart is branding one of Clement's decisions as deplorable. At half-time, with Rangers struggling, Clement made 2 changes, bringing on Nicholas Raskin and Cyril Dessers for Bailey Rice and Nedim Badrami. Now, Badrami had an absolute shocker, offering next to nothing. But Rice, an 18-year-old making his first Ibrox start, doing absolutely fine, yet he was the one sacrificed. Stewart reckons this was a disgraceful move, not just because Rice wasn't the worst on the pitch, but because of the psychological impact. Hanging a kid out to dry like that, that's a brutal message to send. According to Stewart, the experienced players should have been the ones taking responsibility, not the teenager still learning his trade. And then there's Ianis Haji, subbed off for Ridvan Yilmaz, a left-back, in a game where Rangers were crying out for attacking intent. Alan Hutton also chimed in, calling out Clement for hitting the panic button yet again. Just like he did against St Mirren, he even recalled how being subbed as a youngster himself knocked his confidence, warning that the same could happen to Rice. Now, let's be clear. This isn't just about one substitution. It's about a pattern. Clement's decisions are starting to look erratic, and the pressure is mounting. Was Clement's decision to haul off Bailey Rice a sign of tactical failure, or is it proof that he doesn't actually have faith in Rangers' young players? The mere mention of Steven Gerrard's return to Rangers has sparked a reaction that can only be described as unanimous rejection. The nostalgia of title number 55 is strong, but is it enough to justify bringing him back? For most, the answer is a resounding absolutely not. Yes, Gerrard stopped Celtic's 10-in-a-row dream in its tracks, but beyond that historic triumph, what did he truly deliver? 3.5 years in charge and just 1 major trophy. His football was often dire, his signings hit and miss, and his struggles against defensive sides were a recurring theme. Fans haven't forgotten those frustrating matches, slow side-to-side passing, endless crosses into the box, and an inability to break down a deep block. Sound familiar? It should, because it's exactly the same problem that cost Philippe Clement in the Scottish Cup against Queen's Park. Some argue Gerrard raised the standards, but what has he done since leaving Ibrox? His spell at Aston Villa ended in disaster, and now he's managing in Saudi Arabia, a world away from the pressures of a Rangers dugout. Can he really be trusted to come back and take the club forward? And then there's this cold, hard fact. Gerrard and Clement have the exact same number of trophies as Rangers managers. That alone should be enough to end the debate. Why are some still clinging to the idea of Gerrard's return? Is it blind loyalty? Or are they just desperate for anything other than Clement, Wayne Rooney to Rangers? Now, there's a name that'll get people talking. With Philippe Clement hanging on by a thread after the humiliating Scottish Cup exit, speculation is running wild over who could replace him. And while Rooney isn't exactly top of the list, Derek Ferguson reckons it might not be as crazy as it sounds. Let's be clear, Rooney is a football legend, a player who won everything there was to win with Manchester United. But as a manager, the track record isn't exactly impressive. He showed fight at Derby County during their financial meltdown, but flopped at Birmingham and Plymouth. Ferguson's idea of a Gerrard-Rooney reunion at Ibrox is the kind of fantasy that makes headlines, but does it actually make sense? Gerrard had one great season, but struggled in domestic cups and walked away at the first opportunity. Rooney, meanwhile, has never managed at a club the size of Rangers, nor dealt with the pressure that comes with it. Some names being mentioned, Russell Martin, Gary O'Neill, Sean Dyche, at least have a level of experience that suggests they could handle the job. But Rooney, it would be a massive gamble, and Rangers don't have time for gambles. Would bringing in Wayne Rooney be a stroke of genius, or would it turn into another managerial disaster? James Tavernier has come out and said it straight. Rangers' Scottish Cup humiliation at the hands of Queen's Park was shocking and unacceptable. But words mean nothing when the damage is already done. This was not just a bad result. This was one of the most embarrassing nights in the club's history. Losing to a championship side at Ibrox is disgraceful enough, but missing a last-minute penalty to at least force extra time? That just sums up the season. Philippe Clement, clinging on to his job, says he won't resign. But with the league title slipping away and another cup dream crushed, how long can this actually go on? Tavernier himself admits it's not good enough. Shooting 30-odd times but failing to put the ball in the net, getting done by one of the few chances Queen's Park had, that's not just bad luck, that's a failure of leadership, decision-making and mentality. The manager, the players, the entire setup, none of them are escaping blame for this one. Yes, Rangers are in the last 16 of the Europa League, but what does that really mean when on the domestic front, the season is already in ruins? The fans voiced their fury at full time, and they were absolutely right to do so. Clement is now surviving game by game, but survival isn't enough at a club like Rangers. So has Tavernier's captaincy run its course? Is it time for Rangers to strip the armband and bring in a leader who can actually drag this team forward? If you haven't seen yesterday's video yet, you're missing out. Explosive news about Rangers that'll leave every fan stunned. Go check it out now.